What's up, everybody? It's the Digital World Podcast, and this is. Sometimes I wonder if this is just a show. I mean, let me clarify here, okay? Because we know this is all a show, of course. But when there's this back and forth, I really wonder if some of this is like, they go behind the scenes and be like, "You're gonna say this, and then I'm gonna say this," or if it's actually one person saying what they think should happen and then another person saying what they think should happen. Because we can all agree that this is just a complete clown show. This is literally a clown show of what's happening. And we see here that Walensky and Fauci, right? CDC director says there's no plans to change the definition of being fully medicated. Well, I mean, we know that her words hold no value because she says one thing, right? There's videos of her saying her stance on like masks and medicines, and then the next, you know, after Biden is president, then she changes. So her word, his word cannot be trusted. It's been proven. They're flip floppity. They After the science has been proved, they still go contrary to it. And so that's when you know it's not about health, and this is just a complete clown show. Here, the director of the CDC said that the agency won't change the definition of being fully medicated to include the third poisonous, third poisonous, whatever you want to call it, toxin. I don't know. Poisonous toxin. That's a double whammy. Okay. Once again, she was clarifying for comments made by Mr. Tony, who suggested on Tuesday that the language was being replaced. So he was saying that they should be calling it being up to date with your medicines instead of saying that you've been inoculated. So here it says that someone that's considered fully inoculated if they have received their primary series of medicines. And it goes on and on and on. And just about pointless things. I mean, we know we can't say we know for sure, but based on what's happening in Israel, right? What's happening in other countries, but Israel's the one we're really concerned about. It's because they're already on their fourth shot. Okay? And here he says, Mr. Tony says, we need to find out what the durability of protection of the third shot is before we start thinking about the fourth. Here's the thing, they've already thought about the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, who knows how many. And this is all just a means of getting it into you. Look at Israel. If you don't have, I believe, fourth shot, you're going to be considered, or I believe it's the third shot as of now. Fourth shot's being open to seniors. But if you don't have that third shot, you're considered as if you weren't medicated, that you hadn't received the poison. And at one point, do you say enough is enough? Right? Because if you look at historical context, whenever you concede power to the government, it's never going to be relinquished. It becomes more power hungry. So the more you comply, the worse it's going to get. But people don't see it that way because this mass formation psychosis, as Mr. Dr. Robert, has explained in his recent interview, that nothing matters when you try to come to people with data. They're so fixed on their leader and this topic, and whoever's, that leader, wherever that leader is guiding them, they just follow. And they're in some hysteria where they just don't reason. There's no logic in what they're doing. And the people who bring this data and reasoning and truth to them are seen as the outcast, crazy people. That's exactly what's happening here. And eventually, when push comes to shove, there's gotta be a line in the sand for people, right? Unless you just want to continuously be receiving these shots. Plus, there's no long-term studies on what these shots do. We know what the short term is doing, but long term, you got to consider the consequences, and that's frightening. And look at Australia, border control. It's really hard to go in and out of the country if you have not received the medicine. And we're literally going to get to a worldwide Gestapo, but on obviously a global scale. What you saw in Germany is just a little snippet of what it's going to be like on the worldwide scale. It's going to be frightening, folks. And this is why when you see things happen like in Kazakhstan, right, in one of the largest cities, where these people have completely gone mad and outraged because of the prices, right, of LPG, which is their petroleum gas, liquid petroleum gas. They had price controls on it, and they took those away, and it doubled in price. It went insane, and people, out of anger, right, went and protested. Because that's a double increase on all, if you use it for your car, if you use it for your home, for a source of energy, right? Then all of a sudden, everything has doubled. How are you going to be able to afford that? This is what we're talking about. And I'm concerned because a lot of people, like in the winter, people are locked down. There's not as much sun. But once we start heading into spring and summer with nice weather conditions, people are going to go out to the streets. And if there's pent-up frustration, you're going to see it, it's going to be shown through their demonstrations, through their protests. If you thought last year's protests were bad, you just wait. I'm really concerned about what this year's going to look like. People start, when you start threatening people's livelihood in terms of, putting food on the table and such, and a shelter, things will get very serious. So we'll see what happens. But this is all leading towards a very chaotic state. Civilized society. We're not going back to pre-pandemic society. No. This is the new normal. So folks who think that this is going to change and we all need to comply because then we'll get back to normal, they're missing the point. They're missing the point. And we've got to be ready because this is only getting worse. And this is just the beginning. This is the tip of the iceberg, believe it or not. But if you watch Mike Maloney and you see the things he talks about and how that repo market crisis back in 2019, and currently in his last video that he did, the cover-up of what's happening with the Federal Reserve and the banks, there's a major crisis that's up ahead. And we need to be ready because when that, monetary explosive goes off, and you see a banking crisis, oh man, is that going to be bad. So, folks, keep the foot to the pedal, or whatever the saying, however that saying goes. Keep the pedal on the metal, or metal on the, I don't know. But you know what I'm trying to say. We got to stay on top of it and be prepared. Whatever that may mean for you, whether, because everyone's at a different place financially and geographically. Okay? So whatever that means for you, be ready because we're in the beginning steps, and I'm hearing it everywhere that 2022 is a pivotal year. And before that was the talk of the town, I always thought that 2022 is going to be a pivotal year because of what Kristalina Georgieva said. She's the head of the IMF. She said 2021 and 2022 is going to be where medicine policy becomes economic policy. And you'll see their efforts ramp up this year to get everyone on that medicine. And not just that, but economically, there's going to be a lot of change. So stay tuned. This is the Digital World Podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode.